Buckeyes continuing to roll on the transfer portal here on the last few days, especially today. They get their second here on Monday. Second transfer portal pickup of the day. Logan George, defensive end out of Idaho State. Very highly recruited portal guy, though. Tons of big offers. Ohio State lands Logan George this afternoon. This is going to be a Skull Session recruiting podcast episode. You're going to want to check out the entire channel and all of our podcasts for all the various portal updates today. We've got there's been so much to talk about. We've had to kind of do this in shifts. So I got Kevin Noon with me here. Kevin, we knew they needed a defensive end in the portal. Looks like they've got one. We'll see if they go after another one or not. We'll find out about that later. But just initial thoughts on this. Not a guy I think that's a huge name to fans, but a guy who had picked up a lot of juice in the portal with a lot of big offers.
Yeah, so often we look at the name on the front of the jersey rather than the name on the back of the jersey. Oh, this guy went to Alabama, therefore he's this. This guy went to Idaho State, so therefore he's that. 6'5", 260 out of Pocatello, Idaho. Same town that produced Tommy Togiai. So I was looking to see if it was the same school, but Logan George, coming out of high school, did not have the same type of hype around him that maybe Togiai did, so I wasn't able to find a lot of profiles to verify that. But I'm looking at his stats right now: 53 tackles, 5.5 sacks this year for the Bengals of Idaho State. I think that it fills a need. I mean, especially. I think that you look at the Tennessee game and you look at the impact that Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau had in that game, and remember that they're not back next season. So you better, you're going to have to bring in guys that are going to be able to do it. And while Ohio State was able maybe to hit its number in D-line recruiting this year, that doesn't mean that these guys, sometimes year one guys aren't ready to go. So you bring in somebody that has 2 years of playing experience who can help, solidify the room.
Yeah, and so they had really kind of zeroed in on like two guys in the last week or so, and Logan George was one of them. They looked at Marvin Jones Jr. as well, the Florida State transfer via Georgia. I believe I have the order of that correct. I don't think they thought the juice was worth the squeeze on Marvin Jones Jr. in terms of the dollar figure is for I'm not going to beat around the bush on that. The dollar figure price tag versus what the production has been the last couple of years. I think, Marvin Jones Jr. is a guy who's very talented, but has not really been able to put that together on two very big stages of Georgia and Florida State. So I think they were a little more concerned about that one. Logan George had a very good season. Did play Oregon State at the beginning of the year and did have a sack in that game against Oregon State. So I'm sure that was some helpful tape there to watch him go against a major conference opponent, even though Oregon State's kind of a man without a country right now, but just a major D1 opponent, we'll call them. So there was some stuff to go on there. But again, I'm going to just read these off his Twitter feed in order for some of his offers. This was a highly, highly sought after transfer target. Offers: Wisconsin, Missouri, Utah, Texas A&M, Boise State, Oklahoma, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Iowa State, obviously Ohio State. So this is a guy who had all sorts of offers and interest coming into the portal, and really one of the top defensive ends available in this transfer cycle.
Let's not forget, you hope to strike gold with somebody like this, like Jared Verse, when he came out of small school before he went to Florida State. I mean, that was, kind of, I think what a lot of people are going to look to. I think Jared Verse probably had a little bit more buzz around him in terms of the fan side, but the offer lists are very similar in terms of the power of the offer list. So, the Ohio State just land the next Jared Verse. Well, I think every Ohio State fan is hoping so, but you have to at some point realize that Larry Johnson's been doing this a long time, and while maybe some people think that maybe he's lost his his fastball a little bit, he still can identify talent. And Ohio State went all in here, and how do you know they went all in? Well, as Mark said, they really had only targeted like two guys, primarily. So that sounds about all in as you can get. And I think this is an exciting move for them. I think that this is going to be one of these that gets like underreported. I mean, happening just on the heels of the transfer announcement of running back C.J. Donaldson, formerly of West Virginia. But I think that we could maybe look at this 10 months from now and be like, wow, it's shocking that this one was that grossly underreported, because this kid's turned into something. I mean, he's already started to show he has the ability to be something at Idaho State. I mean, it's a much larger pool now, signing with Ohio State. But I think that there's a tremendous amount of upside.
I like that he's got 2 years left, because I mean, you've got Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry and guys like that who are, right in position to have their breakout years next year, finally get their chance to start. They've waited their turn. And you wanted to bring in another guy, but you didn't want to be in a situation again next year where you're like losing your top 3 or 4 pass rushers again. You didn't want to put yourself in that spot again. So I think having multiple years here, I think it breaks up the roster in terms of roster balance and graduation and things like that. I think that breaks up things very nicely. I know, like I said, Marvin Jones Jr., Logan George, those were the 2 guys they had zeroed in on in the last week. So this was a top of the board priority transfer target here. So obviously very big there. We're starting to see the needs addressed, even during a playoff run, as you're trying to balance everything. We're seeing the needs addressed. We've talked about they were going to need a running back. They get a running back today. They were going to need at least one more defensive end. They got a defensive end today. Do they need another one, Kevin? Or is kind of how would you express your thoughts on their situation there with the defensive ends?
I would not be opposed to them getting another one, just because you really can't have too many. And I mean, sometimes Ohio State rotates, sometimes Ohio State doesn't rotate. I mean, again, when you have Sawyer and Tuimoloau, I mean, sometimes it gets really easy to ride the hot hand and not make those moves. You're not going to have that duo next season, so maybe you want to have a little bit more of a rotation there. I mean, we certainly see guys who come in as ends who end up sliding into tackle, and you don't know what you've got there. I mean, obviously with somebody like Jason Moore, when he came in, probably a tackle, but could be an end. Well, he's tackle now. I mean, you sit there and Edric Houston, I think he could be an end. Well, he's a tackle now. So I think that you need to I think if you can get some guys that are, that you can have on the end, I mean, and who knows? I mean, you sit there and you put Logan George in the Ohio State strength and conditioning program, and no shade being thrown at Idaho State, but I mean, we're talking about, 2 very different worlds. I mean, we'll see where that goes, but I want to have a guy like this that can be a solid pass rusher. As I said, 5.5 sacks. I think that I think this is a big get. But to your point about today being really busy, wouldn't it be something if Ohio State landed 4 or 5 guys today, just because they got to get on to getting ready for Oregon? So may as well give everybody the green light today, because when you watch recruiting, Ohio State is notoriously famous for we want everybody to have their day, and these guys commit within 40 minutes of each other.
Yeah, and of course I'm sure the fine folks at Ohio State don't want us working on Christmas, so I'm sure that's a big part of this as well. Making sure the media does not have to do these types of things on Christmas and can spend.
I had to do it on Christmas with Marcellus Jones.
Well, that'll be another story for another day. But yes, that was hilarious. I actually missed his call that morning. I thought he was calling to wish me Merry Christmas. It was hilarious. And then I'm like, oh, he committed. Oops. I guess I should have picked up that. I was in 8 a.m. call. It was 8 in the morning. It was early. I was in my morning routine, and I'm I'll call him back.
I was in Louisiana, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't reach anybody. I'm like, I'm just going to call the kid, to hell with this. And I got him. I mean, and after football, I still talk to Marcellus now and then. I mean, it was never about Christmas, but we will always be bonded. He was my Christmas miracle.
Yes. So I'm sure they're trying to get that out of the way for Christmas for us. But my take on their defensive end situation right now is, if they can find another guy with term, so with 2 or 3 years of eligibility left, not a one and done, not a rental, because I think they essentially have their one and dones. They essentially have their rentals already on the roster in terms of they have seniors coming back. So those guys are going to be obviously in position to start, but If you can get a guy with 2 or 3 years left who has high upside and has already produced at the college level, I think, again, for roster balance, that would make some sense. Other than that, unless like a superstar senior would enter, like I don't even know. I wouldn't even know a name, quite frankly. Like I know Keon Keeley is going to be something people kind of keep waiting for. That's just
if
not
Abdul Carter,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
James Pierce
yes.
Jr. or somebody.
Yes. But I don't think you have to force it at this point. But yeah, if you can get like Logan George 2.0, a guy who's got some production to him, whose film you like, who's got 2 or 3 years left, I think that would make some sense at this point. But we'll see. I think right now, again, they've got the running back today. They got a defensive end today. They have one offensive tackle already. I know they're trying to get another one. There may be some news on that soon. We will see. They've got a couple targets there they're still working on. But, I think that's where it's going to shift mostly. And obviously they've got an opportunity here. They're working on, other positions. Like they'll take an elite tight end if they can get one. They'll take, it looks like they'll take an elite safety if they can get one. Just but it's got to be the right fit. It's got to be not just a depth body at some of these other positions. Like there's certain positions that you need the depth, offensive line, even like defensive end was one here. But there's other positions where it's like, no, it's going to have to really be a what we would consider kind of a star player. To kind of shake up a room that doesn't really necessarily need to be shaken up that bad, like at the tight end or safeties room.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, I'll throw another position out just to throw chum in the water. A place kicker. I mean, people have been really crazy about that when Jesus Gomez from Eastern Michigan committed to and signed with Arizona State. People felt that all hope was lost. There are more kickers out there, I can promise you that. But yeah, you gotta get it all figured out, and your teams that are in the playoff now have even less bandwidth for it, and that's the value that a Mark Pantoni and his staff have. I mean, obviously Ohio State has people dedicated to the portal, dedicated to that. That is their thing. So you go and you look, and I think that Ohio State being in that national slot on Saturday night and everything they did there. It's not like people were unaware of who Ohio State was, but I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt at this point. So, I mean, Ohio State sitting here on Monday, as of the time of us recording this, two portal signees at this point. Both are signed. So, it's something. It's something. It never ends.
Happening.
It never ends.
It's happening. No, big day for the Buckeyes already. We'll see if there's more coming today. We certainly expect more coming in the coming days. But we'll see if there's even more fireworks today. Stay locked in at BuckeyeHuddle.com and right here on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle for more as things break. But we will talk to you again very soon. Thank you for watching and listening.